But the crux of this whole story is that the number one generative AI platform used a human-created ad. Because the Super Bowl is important, and it's a $14 million investment. OpenAI spent $14 million on their Super Bowl spot, and guess what? It was human-created. $14 million, 60-second spot. It's beautiful. I'll link to it in the show notes. This episode is available on YouTube and as well as the audio podcast, as always. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, head over to youtube.com/Emily Binder to watch the video. I just want to focus on one thing. There's lots to talk about every Super Bowl, always. Tons to unpack. They did use Sora, which is their text-to-video editor, for the conceptualizing and brainstorming phase of this ad, but it was edited and created by people. Because when it comes to a $14 million investment, you need people. OpenAI and any generative AI tool is good at some things, but I wouldn't hand it the reins. I wouldn't let it run my email account without me even keeping an eye on the till. It doesn't come off warm, and it's in that uncanny valley. You can still tell when something is AI created. You can tell. Same thing with social media posts. If you have somebody on LinkedIn where LinkedIn posts are all AI written, it's so abundantly, immediately clear that this person is copying and pasting AI posts. And some of them will still have the 2 asterisks at every line break. You know, like you're supposed to delete those when you send something that you got from AI. So people don't know it just was a paste. It's not a good look at this point. Maybe at some point we won't care because our agents will just be talking to each other. Again, we're not there yet. Kate Rouch, CMO at OpenAI, she directed this whole project. I think she did a wonderful job. The ad deliberately avoids mentioning AGI or superintelligence, which are at the core of OpenAI's mission. Interesting, right? The commercial beautifully portrays humanity's technological evolution through this stunning pointillism-inspired animation. It showcases us progressing from fire and the wheel to modern marvels like DNA sequencing, landing on the moon, AI applications. But the crux of this whole story is that the number one generative AI platform used a human-created ad. Because the Super Bowl is important, and it's a $14 million investment. By the way, our Super Bowl ad's still worth it. Every year they get more expensive. $8 million, that was the cost to run an ad. 30-second spot, Super Bowl, $8 million. I remember years ago when it was $1 million or $2 million. But apparently, it's still worth it. For every dollar spent on a Super Bowl ad, the return is $4.60. Solid ROI. Surprising for what is an untrackable billboard of sorts. Sometimes you have a QR code. Sometimes there's a URL that's a landing page that's tracking, but it's oftentimes not this last click attribution model where you know for sure the lead came from the ad, which is the challenge in all marketing, anything digital. Nothing is perfectly measured. Nielsen households weren't either. So I don't know about that $4.60 return on the dollar spent, but it could be true. It's a lot of awareness and branding. At least it has been for years. Did you like the ad? I thought it was beautiful. That pointillism, and it did capture the innovation and technology. And do you remember in The Fifth Element when Lilu has to download all of human history and learn all the languages so that she can kind of upload and power up to help Corbin Dallas? And she's watching the pain and the glory and everything we've done from cave days to creating the printing press and landing on the moon and the internet age, which at the time, the movie was like, what, 95? It's heavy stuff, all of humanity. AI is just math. It doesn't think. What is thinking? It's math. It's not that scary if it's just math. But these large language models are trained on existing data sets, including Reddit. Not all of the information that it's trained on is even accurate, true, well-written. If you keep relying on it too much, the whole internet becomes a copy of a copy of a copy of a JPEG, like a mimeograph or a photocopy, which every time you copy it gets a little grainier. Remember photocopying? If you're my age or older, you do. I'll photocopy that for you. And then by the 30th kid in the classroom, the photocopy was really grainy, could barely even make out the text. That's what's going to happen to the internet if we only use AI to write. It just gets so diluted. And P.S., I have some people that I can tell are in my business life, like I email pretty frequently, and I can see that something shifted the last couple of weeks where they're using an AI tool to write their emails for them. And it doesn't sound like them. It's very terse. Everything ends in a period. It's almost like an AI Zoom meeting summary, really redundant, mentioning the calendar invites. So I wouldn't use that tool unless I'm like setting an appointment. Yes, no, let's do a calendar thing. But if I'm communicating with a client, I'm writing it myself still. I use AI to help me. It's an assistant, much like OpenAI itself used Sora for the brainstorming and concepting of this ad. And when it came time to create the ad, humans, you want a human being making sure that $14 million investment, it's too important. We're still in the uncanny valley. So the spot celebrated human creativity. That's a nice message coming from the top AI company. I'm not being sarcastic, but it's a significant insight, which is AI can assist us. It provides new perspectives, possibilities, suggestions, ideas, but it cannot replace human intuition, humor, emotional depth. It'll never do that. It can ape that, but it's not there. It's just AI isn't funny. Ask AI to write a joke. It's not funny. Ask AI to write messages for your dating app profile and communications. It might work, but it wouldn't work on me. So what does this mean for how we view AI as a marketing assistant? Undeniably, it has very powerful capabilities. It can be a time saver. I've had people say to me, well, why don't you just use the AI video editor? Like shoot out the clips, add the captions. You know why? Because it doesn't always select the best clip. It doesn't understand context. It has sometimes typos in the captions. It'll begin at the wrong point. The clip that starts at a certain hook will do 4 times better than a clip that starts a sentence too early or too late. It's when do you start that clip? I haven't found AI to be good at selecting the beginning of a clip. And face it, short form video dominates the internet right now. It's so important. I don't care if you even do a podcast, do an unpodcast. Just, you have to have good clips. Clips. With marketing, it's not something you can outsource fully to AI. You should absolutely be using AI to make your human marketers more efficient. I wouldn't hire someone that doesn't have a grasp of using it. I would rather have somebody work 6 hours smart and have AI pick up the slack on the 2 hours of rote tasks. Like that will be a less tired employee who is more efficient, but I need you thinking for real on those other hours of the day. It doesn't even need to be 6, frankly. Like what is the 8-hour workday? It's a holdover from farming. We don't really need to work for 8 hours. Some days I'm 10, some days I'm 2. Depends on the day. It's not about the hours we work. It's about the thought. And that will become even more important, recognized, accepted when we only need to work 1 or 2 hours a day. And those days we're thinking. That's a couple hours of true thought, creativity. Burning the most calories of any activity in the body is the brain. And then AI can do the rest of the rote tasks, the annoying stuff, the email, the calendar, the accounting. But again, this is math. It's an LLM. It's not a person. It's not a replacement for your CMO. It might be for your intern. It might be for your assistant. It'll get there soon, next year, easily. Like it's going to book your flights. It knows your preferences. I want the window seat. Don't put me in a hotel room where I'm by the elevator and the ice machine. Fill that out. You call their agent. Great. Done. Savings. Huge savings. But it can't edit a $14 million Super Bowl ad. OpenAI is seeking a $300 billion valuation, and they aim to achieve $11.6 billion in revenue this year. It is essential to remember that authenticity in messaging is key. I think for a company like this, even more so. This ad probably was at least implicitly meant to have a palliative effect on our collective unconscious or subconscious about fears of AI. And not in the sense that everyone that watched the ad knew that it was all human created. I mean, you had to do a light Google to figure that out, or just like open your Twitter feed, X feed, LinkedIn. But it says a lot. It says a lot. OpenAI's approach, by the way, contrasts sharply with recent AI-related advertising missteps, like what Google did during the Olympics. They had a spot that was pulled after backlash because in the spot, AI was helping somebody to write a heartfelt letter. If you've ever had a blank Hallmark card, it might have been condolences for a death, grieving, something horrible happened. You wanted to send a heartfelt card, have AI write your message. Might not land. Maybe it can help you brainstorm. Sometimes it's hard to find the words. It's good for that. Like, get me started. Give me a couple talking points. Give me that phrasing that I'm looking for. I wouldn't just paste what it says because it might not land. Obviously, for this ad, having AI do the whole thing wouldn't have landed because it's just not there yet. Trust me, I've used the video editor, the image generator. They're in the uncanny valley. It's not quite there yet. Have you guys heard of the dead internet theory? I'm going to link to the article in the show notes, but bottom line, people were so concerned about the internet because it's something like 80% of the web is actually adult content. Big deal at this point. I would be more concerned that the 20% that was real content, educational, inspirational, valuable, business, literature, all of this is becoming a copy of a copy of a copy. This is what happens when you transmit something electronically. The same thing happens to ideas, language, content. When it's AI's generated take on other content, which increasingly is AI generated because that's what we're spitting out, and less of it's written by people, it starts to blur, like the copy of a copy of a copy. Fortunately, the $14 million Super Bowl ad from OpenAI was not a copy of anything, and it was all original, and it was human created. I applaud that. Great. If you're enjoying the show, make sure that you subscribe, follow wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, youtube.com/EmilyBinder, and links to rate, review, and listen, binge the best episode playlist of all time, a Spotify playlist. It's at emilybinder.com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, send it to a friend. Thanks for listening or watching, and I'll see you next time.